So next up, we have Kaven Choi from Etherscan, and he's one of the hardest working people in the blockchain explorer space. And how do I know that? Because he is always responsive. He's always answering us in the middle of the night when we have feature requests or we have suggestions, or we say, "Hey, what if you include this on Moonscan?" Kaven is always responding, and those features very quickly find their way into the product, which we're so happy about and grateful to have. So today, Kaven is going to speak to you today about Moonscan, which is the Moonbeam's block explorer, also for Moon River and Moonbase Alpha. So hope you enjoy the session, and I'll hand it over to you, Kaven.
Thank you, Gavin. It was a great opportunity to speak and present Moonscan to you guys. Cool. So let me just share my screen here to begin. Uh, Yep. So a quick introduction. We are a team at Etherscan. We built EVM Block Explorer, and it's a great opportunity to work with Moonbeam and the team to build out the EVM Explorer for Moonbeam to bring similar interface and familiar features to users and developers alike. So if you have not seen Moonscan yet, this is Moonscan. We have multiple layers of features that is available for both users and developer. Uh, and let me jump right into users features that users uses most on our site. So we have a couple of features that is most used. Watch list being the number one. What watch list does is that it monitors addresses and you get a email notification if the addresses perform a transaction or receive a transaction. You can also put in transaction private notes. This transaction private notes is especially useful if you perform a transaction and then you could put in comments and notes on the transaction, and you can keep track of those as well. And on Moonscan, to easily navigate around different addresses, you can users or developers can append private address tags to different addresses so they can monitor quickly. So let me jump right in to show you how this works. Cool. So yep. So this is Moonscan, like you guys know. Uh, you can also switch to Moon River and the Moonbase testnet over here under this drop down. Once you have an account, you could logged into your account, and you will be able to find the features right on the left hand side. Let's go with watch list now. For now, under watch list, you can add an address. Let's take this as an example. You could paste, and then you could essentially say that's fun, and you could essentially get notifications on the different activities that are going on to an address. And once you add them here, you could essentially also see how much an address has, and you could get a notification if the address performs something or receives some funds or perform a transaction. So this is very useful. Watch list is very useful. For example, if you want to watch a couple of real addresses, you can essentially see how much they own, and the grand total is automatically calculated here. This is one of the top features. I personally love it a lot. Yeah, so this is watch list. Next, I
Hi,
will touch
Kevin.
on.
Can you zoom in a little bit because it's a little small on the screen?
Oh, zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so this is watch list. You could essentially add a couple of address here. Um, yeah, so you can get notification on incoming and outgoing transactions, or incoming only, outgoing only, and also it will enable you to track ERC20 token transfers. So these are watch lists. Next, I will jump into transaction private notes. Transaction private notes are essentially really helpful. For example, let's take this address for an example. Uh, you could send some Gleamer to somebody, and you could put in, say, transfer to Jack and Kevin. So once this is added, you get a record of all your transactions here. And yeah, you do keep track of all the transactions. For example, if you participated in you participated or you bought some NFTs, or you sent funds to somebody that it's been a while back, if you keep track of them, add the private notes to them, they will appear here all the time. So you have a 2,000 transaction limit. Yeah, you could feel free to mark all the transaction itself. The private note will stay here on the transaction itself, so you're able to refer back to them quickly. Yeah, so that is the transaction private notes. Next, another nice feature to have is the address private note. This is something that I love, love, love particularly, because what you're able to do is you can put names to an address. For example, this is that address. Okay, I will just put, yep. So once you add a private note to them, what happens is that when you log into your account, you're able to see the private tag here. Once you go in the address, you can always see that the transaction, instead of the address itself, it will be the tag that you assign. And it's a really, really useful feature. For example, if you know a couple of people that transact with each other frequently, you could essentially add them here as well. So what if you go back to your usual transaction page, you'll be able to see this identified address sending funds to each other. This is very, very useful, especially if you have multiple addresses or you have a bunch of friends and you want to keep track of who sending funds to who. You're able to just easily identify them, and once you tag them. It's pretty fun. You don't need to look into an address, remember so much numbers. You can just tag them, and yeah, it's a very convenient tool, and it's awesome. Yeah, I can see here everybody is sending into that address, that is reach, and blah blah blah. Yep. So that is the user features uh, that that everybody uses on Moonscan. Next, we do have developer features as well that help developer build on Moonscan, on Moonbeam as well, both Moonbeam and Moonweaver. Um, One of the most used tools is smart contract verification. So when a developer deploys their contract, essentially it's just bytecodes. So what we provide is a feature for developer to match the contract source code with bytecodes. And once that is matched, we will show that contract source code on Moonscan. Developer or users can go in and interact with the contract using our read and write contract directly once they are connected to a wallet. We now support MetaMask and also Wallet Connect. We do also have developer APIs, which enable on-chain data streams. Developer relies heavily on these APIs to determine if a address is receiving funds, and also track some of the balances as well. Developers also can submit their smart contract verification through the API. Another tool we have is also Top Statistics. Top Statistics enable users and developers to monitor on-chain activities, transfer, and some of the active addresses. So let me go through them with you again here. Um, yep. Let's jump into verified contracts. So if you see here, we have a list of all contracts that is verified on Moonscan. Once you jump into an address here, you're able to see that this is being verified. Here you have different options, which is the read contract, where you read the on-chain state, and we also have the write contract, where you can interact with the contract directly. Other than this, we have developer APIs, where you're able to hop in and look at endpoints that essentially you need to develop your app. Yep, we have a transaction contract where you are able to pull contract data. We have the proxy APIs as well. You could get block numbers, transaction receipt. We have some endpoints on token, stats as well, and we are working really, really hard on adding much more endpoints here in the coming days. Another thing that I talked about is the top statistics. In top statistics, you're able to see different snippets of stats that you can rely on, like transactions, who performed the most transactions, who received the most glimmer, who sends the most glimmer, broken down by 1, 3, and 7 days. Then we do have also token statistics and network statistics as well. Yep, and not forgetting other features that we have. We do have gas tracker, label word cloud, and token approval. So these are some of the amazing features that we added recently. Gas tracker will allow you to examine gas fees, see who spend the most, see who uses the most gas fee. Label word cloud, it's easy for users to identify different DApps and projects. And for token approval, if you do interact with a lot of contracts and you lost track on which contract that you approved on certain allowance, here you're able to check all of them, review and revoke. Let me jump into them. Gas tracker. Yep. So here you're able to see the different gas fee that you can pay. It's lifetime. It's real time. Sorry. You're able to pick the gas fee that you want. Here you can also see what contract uses the most gas and who spends the most gas. This is a nice feature. Yeah, another one. Yeah, label word cloud. Yep. For label word cloud, we are constantly expanding this list. So here you can see some of the addresses that we tagged as DeFi. You can also see some of the addresses that we tagged on multi-chain, the different addresses here. Once you can dive in here, you are able to examine and see different protocols and all of their contract addresses. The list here is ever expanding. The team is working tirelessly to add more labels, and it's for developer and users to easily dive into different projects and pick up all the contracts that's being deployed by them. Yep, and lastly, I would like to introduce our token approval. This is, I could say, as a safety feature, is because you could check your approval for all contracts. In case if a contract is not safe and you knew about it, you would want to revoke your allowance. You could essentially connect to your Web3 wallet and revoke the allowance to this particular contract. Yep. So these are the features that that I have for you guys, and we are always expanding. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any comments, any feedback. We have our support channel, our support URL here, which I can share in the chat, and also our Twitter. feel free to always send in questions or anything that you guys need. We are happy to work with. Yeah, I think that's all for me. If you guys have any question, I'm happy to answer.
That's fantastic, Kaven. Thank you so much. The token approvals feature is a really key safety feature, as you mentioned. So I want to encourage everybody to check that out. And the word cloud, that was really cool. I had never seen that before.
Yep, we are expanding the list. So for projects that comes in, we will label them in a category of itself. You could essentially dive in and check all their contracts or all their addresses related to the project.
Amazing. That's a great way to see on-chain activity, to see a snapshot of what's going on. And I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but you've shown us an incredible number of great features. Is there anything like in the future, like or is maybe you can't share that yet, but for future features, we're always interested.
Yeah, so one of the things that we are trying really, really hard to is to expand the functionality of address filters. For example, in your address page, you do have, if I could share my screen again.
Certainly, yeah, you can.
Yep. So, yeah, so we are trying very hard to have different filters around here where you could filter according to the different transactions, incoming and outgoing transactions. And one of the one that we would love to introduce, and we are working towards it, is the method filter. So, for example, throughout your lifetime of your address, you could perform different interaction with different contracts. Some could be swap, some could be transfer, some could be, say, whitelist, stuff like that. Now, if you perform so much of the transaction, you won't be able to know which transaction that you actually executed. We are working really, really hard to introduce the filter for the method, so you are able to screen through all your transactions quickly.
Oh, amazing. And you also have the rewards tab where you display staking rewards, which I think is a unique Moonscan feature.
Yep. Yeah, so if you do stake, yeah, you could essentially check all your rewards here.
Fantastic. And also the name tags, of course. Name tags. So important contracts like the Moonbeam crowd loan, precompiles as well. All these types of special addresses are labeled. So that's very, very convenient, for you to see.
Yeah. See, once it's labeled, it's easier for you to determine who is sending to who. And you could essentially also jump into your token holdings here to see the amount of assets and the changes. You would like to declutter it by hiding some zero assets. Yeah, so you could essentially have full control of your address and dive deep into what you own, what you don't, and the different interactions that you have on using Moonscan. It's an amazing product that we still try to enhance vigorously. If you do have if you use the same address across different networks, you could essentially use the block scan feature to pick up your address at different networks and swap them accordingly. So it's relatively nice feature to have. You could jump into Moonriver on your address. Yeah, so that is an awesome.
That's a huge feature. Yeah, that's very, very important, and it's great to see that. And lastly, I guess just my final question is: if somebody's deploying a contract and they want to, let's say, add their token name, or let's say they want to add like a description or their social media, how do developers do that?
Cool. You could just go to our contact us page at the bottom, or you could update token and then follow the process. Our team will get to you really, really quickly. Another method is to, for example, if your token is not updated, you could just click on update next to social profile, and you could follow the process to update. It's relatively simple. Some verification needed, and once that is we get all the information. For example, your image, your website, Discord, Twitter, all these profiles, and then we can just add them on Moonscan, and you could essentially show them to users very, really quickly.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Kaven.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's been a pleasure having you here today.
Nice talking, and good to see you again.